You're hanging out after hours with Matt Anderson, presented by Inside the Gamecocks.
Welcome into the show, Gamecock fans. Obviously, really big win for the Gamecocks here tonight against Kentucky. The Gamecocks, we're 15-3 on the season coming into the game, 3-2 in the SEC conference. Gamecocks have looked the part of a top 25 team outside of, some advanced metrics. And like I say all the time, the Ken Pom and the Bart Torviks and the Evan Mias of the world oftentimes have some catching up to do, and they don't really get super accurate until like the mid-season point forward. But if you guys are somebody that pays attention to Ken Pom, you'll see that the Gamecocks actually jumped up 13 spots. Just happened. From 63rd in the country to 50th in the country after the win against Kentucky. I can't say enough about the way the Gamecocks played the game. For me, you guys know I'm a basketball head, so I'm taking notes the entire game. And the things that I take notes on, I have a running kind of running categories at the 16-minute timeout, the 12-minute timeout, 8-minute timeout, 4-minute timeout, end of a half. So I do that running. And so I look at fouls, I look at three-pointers made, I look at rebounds, offensive rebounds, turnovers, and then lastly, I look at what the score is at each, official timeout. And, I want to run through this with you guys really quick so you kind of understand how impressive the victory was tonight. If you're just looking at the official media timeouts, at the 16-minute timeout, Gamecocks were trailing 4-2. At the 12-minute timeout, the Gamecocks were up 10-9. At the 8-minute mark timeout, it was a tie game, 21-21. And then at the 4-minute timeout, Gamecocks are up 27-23. And then obviously at halftime, the Gamecocks are winning 33-25. So the Gamecocks, they withstood one run from Kentucky when Kentucky got up by like 5 or 6 points. I think it was 21-15 or something like that. And then the Gamecocks went on, a run of their own there and outscored Kentucky, by a good many. At the under 8 timeout, Kentucky had 21 points, and at halftime, Kentucky had 25. So if you just kind of look at that math, and you can do the math in your head there, Gamecocks went on a pretty big run of their own, and they answered Kentucky's run. Looking at the rest of the game, I thought that, coming out of halftime, the Gamecocks were going to have to weather a run by Kentucky. I thought there was an opportunity to kind of step on their throats if you could weather what Kentucky was going to throw at you to start the second half. At the under 16-minute timeout, it was 40-34 South Carolina, so the Gamecocks had only given up 2 points of their halftime lead. And then at the under 12-minute timeout, the Gamecocks were up 50-40, which obviously 2 points more than the halftime margin. At the under 8 timeout, the Gamecocks were up 62-44. Gamecocks got up by as much as 20 points in the game. At the under 4 timeout, it was 68-53 South Carolina. And then the final score, as you all know, South Carolina 79, Kentucky 62. That makes 2 wins in a row for Lamont Paris against Kentucky and John Calipari. I know that the Gamecocks, Darren Horn had success against Kentucky, randomly while he was the head coach of South Carolina, largely because of Devin Downey, I would say. Speaking of Devin Downey, on a night where Kentucky in the national polls was ranked 6th in the country, not quite the number one upset that the Gamecocks had with Devin Downey over Kentucky, but probably one of the bigger wins in South Carolina basketball history. Devin Downey was absolutely phenomenal that night. I thought it was a nice nod by the university to bring him out in the second half during a media timeout to let the fans, shower him with love and support and appreciation. But Talon Cooper, maybe he didn't score as many points as Devin Downey did that night against John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and all those Kentucky studs. I thought Talon Cooper might have played, one of the top 5 games I've ever seen from a Gamecock, and maybe one of the top performances I've ever seen from a Gamecock point guard. Looking at Talon, just if you guys haven't had a chance to look at the box score yet, Talon Cooper had 20 points on 8 of 11 shooting, 2 for 4 from the 3-point line, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, no turnovers, and only one personal foul. I've never seen somebody just dictate. I mean, I've seen it. You know, I've watched a lot of basketball, but it's been a long time since I've seen a Gamecock basketball player, if I've ever seen one, completely dictate, you know, both offensively and defensively, the tempo of the game. And Gamecocks got up to maybe like a 10 or 11 point lead. Maybe it was 13. And Talon had to take a breather. I don't know how many minutes Talon played. ESPN hasn't updated it yet, but you kind of saw some scatteredness when Talon left the game, and Lamont Paris quickly had to put him back into the game, and then kind of, you know, smooth everything over, slow everything down. So just I can't say enough about Talon Cooper. Michi had 14. Outside of that, Jacoby Wright, 4 of 7 from 3. He made his first 4. I thought he might have got some tired legs there at the end. Finished 4 of 7 from the 3-point line, 14 points. Josh Gray, guys, how about Josh Gray? We've been talking about, you know, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane, you know, since he's been at South Carolina. And for all of you that wanted to see Josh Gray, you know, start, you know, attempting to break some rims, he did that tonight. I think I counted at least 3 dunks. He finished, what did Josh finished with 9 points. So yeah, 3 dunks, an and 1, and you know, a nice layup as well. 9 points and 6 rebounds from Josh Gray. If the Gamecocks can get that every night, they're really, really cooking with grease. I'll tell you that right now. BJ Mack, you know, 3 of 12 shooting, 8 points, 7 rebounds, but made some really timely shots. You know, the 2 3-pointers he made kind of, you know, helped the Gamecocks either, you know, close the lead or extend the lead. And then, you know, the one just absolute, you know, 1960s hooper kind of hook shot running to his right. That's an unguardable shot. So all around a great team effort. You know, Zach Davis had the big 3 to put the Gamecocks up by 8 at halftime. I haven't seen any drop off at all with Zach in the lineup versus what they were getting from Studi. If they can get Studi back, that just means that, and they will get Studi back. He's probably about, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks, you know, probably 2 weeks max from playing again. When they get him back, if they can keep the momentum they've gained so far, it's going to be something special to watch. I'm trying to find. Okay, so yeah, minutes. Talon Cooper played 36 minutes tonight. I can't say enough about him. Offensive rating on KenPom of 185%. Oh my gosh. Might be, you know, the best game I've ever seen a Gamecock basketball player play all around. Absolutely. I've seen guys put up some, you know, big numbers scoring. I mean, I was around for BJ Mackey, Larry Davis, Melvin Watson. I've seen, you know, Devin Downey. I've seen the Bryson kid a couple years back. I mean, we've seen some 30-point burgers. We've seen some 40-point burgers out of guys in the past. But, you know, Talon may have had the best game that I've ever seen a Gamecock play. You know, coming into this game, I think that I saw a line, and the line I saw earlier today was Kentucky by 5.5. And it was an interesting number. I can't remember what KenPom had it at. I think KenPom might have had it at like 5.5 or 6. But I just started digging into the game, and I was trying to find reasons that the Gamecocks could win this particular matchup. And one of the things that I noticed, obviously, you know, we haven't even talked about it yet, but Kentucky's averaging like 96 points per game or something ridiculous. It's unbelievable. The Gamecocks held them tonight to 62. But when I looked at Kentucky, you know, their offense, yeah, it's ridiculous. 123.2 adjusted offense. That's unbelievable. But their defense was 101.4, which means that they're going to give up a point pretty much on every possession that you play against them. South Carolina, on the flip side, had a 113 offense and a 101.9. I'm sorry, Gamecocks have a 113 and a 101 offense and defense. But when I looked at conference play, it actually was it was really interesting to me. Kentucky's defensive efficiency was 110.7, good for 10th best in the conference. So I thought if the Gamecocks could get into a half-court game with Kentucky, if they could force Kentucky to not be able to run and play as fast as they wanted to, and the Gamecocks did everything right tonight. It was a 40-minute just it wasn't even a chess match. It was just, it'd be like me playing a world champion in chess, is what Lamont Paris did to Calipari tonight. Early on in the game, the Gamecocks forced Kentucky to almost play one-on-one basketball. I'm going to look it up, and the announcers mentioned it a couple times, but Kentucky had 7 assists on the night, and some of those assists came late. But Kentucky just started playing one-on-one basketball. Kentucky was 4 of 13 for the three-point line. They got a couple of those threes late, but Kentucky was 2 of 10 from the three-point line at the end of the first half, 3 for 11 at the 4-minute mark. The Gamecocks on the flip side were 6 of 12 from 3 at the end of the first half and finished 10 of, I don't know what is it. Let me get that right at the end of the game. Finished 11 of 24 from the three-point line. And, Lamont Paris has thought for a while that, if the Gamecocks could just find a way to hit some open shots with the way that they distribute the basketball and the offense that they run, they could beat anybody in the country. And tonight that was on full effect. And we can go back. We can go back to the summer exhibition games that the Gamecocks played in, and we can look and see the Gamecocks were shooting like 46% from 3 in those exhibition games. And the Gamecocks, hit a little lull, kind of start SEC play, maybe a little bit before with a 3-point shot. But I've said it all season long, and the 3-point line in college basketball is the great equalizer. You can have all the talent in the world, but if the Gamecocks shoot 45.8% on 24 3-point attempts the rest of the way, they're going to be a hard out because of the way they play. I think that one of the other big keys to the game that the announcers hit on as well, but the Gamecocks finished with, let me pull it up. Gamecocks finished with 9 turnovers. They had 7 in the first half. So they only had 2 turnovers in the second half. I mean, it was almost a perfect game. I'm going to call it a perfect game, man. It was pretty cool to watch. I was pretty impressed with the Dillingham kid. He had 16 points tonight, but he is lightning fast for Kentucky. The Reed Shepherd kid's been playing well for Kentucky to start the season. He's kind of hit a little bit of a wall. He only had 3 points tonight. Late 3. Reeves and Mitchell are good players for Kentucky, but one of the things that I talked about, either on the Big Spur or on some show I was on, or maybe it was even my show when I was doing like SEC previews. You look at Kentucky and they have so many players that came from are either freshmen or transferred. I think they only brought back like 3 players from their team last year, maybe only 2. That I thought that if Colonial Life could get aggressive and get packed, and the Gamecocks playing the way that they're playing right now, I didn't think there was any reason in the world that South Carolina couldn't win. I wouldn't have predicted it, but I was looking for reasons to find ways for the Gamecocks to get the job done, and they absolutely did the job tonight. Kentucky, looking at their schedule coming up, Kentucky has, let's see here. Kentucky has at Arkansas, Florida, and then Tennessee, their next 3 games. So the Gamecocks now are pulling for Kentucky the rest of the way. As you guys have been reading, guys and gals have been reading about the net and the quads and the way that the NCAA tournament selects teams. Gamecocks will be pulling for Kentucky the rest of the way. But this was the big signature win that South Carolina needed. This is the kind of win in the fashion that the game played out with the 17-point win. This is one of those games that goes from I always talk about like a seed bump win. When the Gamecocks went on the road at Missouri and they were like in the last 4 in Joe Lenardi's bracketology, I said that's a seed bump win. They're going to be in the field. They're not going to be the last 4. They're not going to they're not going to be in the playing game. This is the type of win that if the Gamecocks were an 11th seed, this bumps them to like an 8 or a 9. Just being honest, because the other teams around the country don't have the record in the quads that South Carolina does. The one thing South Carolina was missing was that elite Q1 victory, which they got tonight. I think the Gamecocks are probably now 6-2 in quad 1 and quad 2 games. They have the 1 quad 3 loss, but the Gamecocks are quietly putting together a resume of quality wins that's going to be important for the selection committee ultimately. And I think that the Gamecocks got to keep it up, but I mean, they proved today that they can play with anyone in the country. Yeah, Kentucky's defense isn't great, but at the same time, the Gamecocks played a style of basketball that they have to make shots, and they made the shots tonight. And I couldn't be happier for Gamecock fans. I couldn't be happier for the players, happier for Lamont Paris. You'll look at the rest of the next couple games for the Gamecocks. Big game this Saturday. Missouri at home, 1:00. I'm going to be there. I hope that the rest of Gamecock Nation shows out. Let's fill the arena up just as much as it was for Kentucky tonight, because these players and these coaches, this entire team, this organization deserves it. But you look at the next couple games here, and South Carolina has an opportunity to rack some wins up. You got Missouri at home on Saturday. Okay, then you travel to Tennessee. That's going to be a tough one, but South Carolina can play with Tennessee. Am I predicting a win? Probably not, but they can play with them. But then you get Georgia. You go at Georgia. We got a revenge game there. Ole Miss doesn't scare me. Vanderbilt doesn't scare me. So you're all of a sudden looking at like a 19-4 team traveling to Auburn on Valentine's Day. And then after that, you get LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State. I mean, the Gamecocks are set up for so much success here. Gamecocks are 5-2 in the SEC, 16-4 overall. I mean, they're only a game and a half back in the SEC standings, if you can believe that. So, just all in all, just what a fantastic, 4-2 in conference. You're right. Happy. Just what a game there. I do want to look. I want to see some of these comments here, because I know that there's a lot going on in the comment box. A lot of LP is a good coach. Someone needs to thank Ray Tanner. Lamont's a great coach. What he had to work with last year. I mean, you're never going to turn down a Gigi Jackson, but he has a system, and you have to run the system. Talon is so important to the system and the way it runs right now. So point guard's always going to be a big issue with South Carolina. Craig says, "Let's go." What up, Matt? Mad Dog. Yeah, as always, guys. Phil Mullinax, my producer extraordinaire, is behind the scenes for this show tonight. Craig said, "I think they only had one dunk that really surprised me. We didn't get dominated underneath at all." Yeah, it was just a drive. It was a driving game for Kentucky. They were trying to drive and force fouls, and the Gamecocks, looking at the fouls, Gamecocks only committed 5 fouls in the first half. Only, I don't know how many fouls. I think they ended up with 10 fouls in the second half or something like that. But Gamecocks just played straight up great defense. Julie says, "Go Cox." Absolutely. Craig says, "Cooper is so smooth, never freaks out under pressure. He's our glue guy." Yeah, he's the straw that stirs the drink. Craig says, "We dominated them." Absolutely. Complete 40-minute game. Josh Gray hit his free throw. Yes, he did. I'm just enjoying this with you guys. So I'm loving the chat box. You guys have any questions? You want to have any comments? Always throw them at me. It's so much fun. As long as the Gamecocks continue to play together, they can go far. Two teams in Bama and Kentucky that score in the 90s, and we held a much lower. Defense should give us a chance with anyone. Absolutely. Cooper said it all in the post-game interview. We just love each other and play as a team. Yeah. Maybe Lamont stealing from Coach Beamer with "Find Some Joy" and "Love Your Brother." This is just this is something else. I mean, Calipari, I see here, Craig. He's an elite coach. That he is. He doesn't have the success that he's had without being an elite coach. But Calipari's teams are somewhat suspect to nights like this. And it seems like to me, he couldn't keep his players' heads in the game and focused. I think the Gamecocks got in their grill. I think that the Gamecocks felt like they were going to win going in, continued to gain confidence the entire game. And I think that, with about 10 minutes to go in the game, Kentucky knew they were going to lose. And once this Gamecock team smells blood, especially at home with this kind of environment, this game was effectively over at the 8-10 minute mark of the game, which was awesome. I see another Matt Anderson in here. Go Cox. Heck yeah. Yep. Okay. What's up, Devin? Appreciate you. Thanks for the kind words and a good show. Shout out to Morris Yugasuk for playing solid when we needed as well. Morris he's coming along. The game was too fast for him. And, he played against, a 5-star guard that he was having to guard a couple times. And, it wasn't a good matchup for him, but Morris is going to be a good player. Playing in these types of games is huge for Morris from a confidence level, but also just knowing he belongs on the court. It was great. Yeah, but Chad, I agree with you. Hey, we lost to UGA. We win that, and we're top 3 in the SEC and ranked in the top 20. Yeah, probably. I think that that Georgia loss kind of coming on the heels of a bad loss to Alabama. Not a bad loss in the sense that Alabama's a good team, but just the way they lost, might have kept us out of the top 20, but somewhere in there. Yeah, Philip, yeah, I agree. Kentucky was never able to sustain momentum. Gamecocks smothered them. Yep, absolutely. How about them Gamecocks? Awesome game. Go Gamecocks. Gamecocks are 5-2, 4-2. Yeah, that was impressive. Gamecocks, y'all looking good. Love to see the Cats get their what's kicked. Somebody said bad hire. Said from day one, great hire. Learned from two. If one of the best in Wisconsin. Yeah, Chad. I mean, a lot of people were skeptical about Lamont Paris. I think that anytime you hire a mid-major coach, there is some reason for skepticism. But being around Bo Ryan, they don't make many better basketball coaches than Bo Ryan. And what I love about Lamont is that he has the respect of his team, and he knows how to manufacture basketball teams. And what I mean by that is exactly what the announcer said tonight. Lamont does feel if he has 75% of the talent level as his opponent, he's going to win the game. And it kind of Lamont in some ways really reminds me of Eddie Fogler. Eddie Fogler, say what you want about the end of his run in South Carolina, but he brought an SEC championship. He kind of played with those smaller lineups, the kind of 3-guard lineups. That's some of the best years South Carolina's ever had under Eddie. But Eddie was famous for if he had a lead with 5 minutes to go, he was going to win that game. And I think Lamont is cut from the same cloth. It's just an old school basketball coach that understands time possession, understands how to maximize the ending of a game, make sure that the Gamecocks stay in a place where they're always within striking distance. I'll say there was a point in the game today where I think it got up to 21-15 or something like that, Kentucky. And Kentucky kind of went on their little run. And the Gamecocks had taken at least one, what I consider a bad shot. Lamont doesn't consider these bad shots, by the way. Lamont wants his guys to shoot if they're open and let the offense flow. And that's been apparent since the beginning of the season. But I thought Lamont should have called a timeout, kind of to stop the bleeding. And he chose not to. And, look, a couple possessions later, Gamecocks have tied it up 21-21 going into a media timeout. You had 2 threes to tie that up. Just has a feel. He has a feel for it that really, really impressed me a lot. So, golly, yeah, I'm a big fan of Mr. Quarter Zip himself. Kentucky is the Cowboys of college basketball. I think some people can say that, and I definitely think that they have some Cowboy tendencies. Gamecock premier in free throw shooting showed up tonight. For the first time this season, Gray was dominant inside. He should be all the time. Absolutely happy. He, like we say, he looks like Tarzan. Sometimes he can play like Jane, but I think these last 2 games have given him a little bit of confidence. Absolutely. Grover says beat the refs too. Honestly, Grover, I feel like the refs were pretty fair. I mean, there was a moment in that game when Stephen Clark, for a moment got called for a flagrant, potentially a flagrant one, when he came across with the elbow. That could have been a turning point in the game. I think the Gamecocks were up by 4 at that particular point. And if the Kentucky gets 2 free throws and the ball, I mean, they could have ended that kind of series of plays with a 1-point lead with 2 free throws and a 3. So, the refs were pretty good to South Carolina there in their interpretation of the rule, which I agree with. I don't think Stephen had anywhere else he could have gone with the ball or his elbows with the way he was being guarded. There were a couple quick fouls on Stephen, and that would have been his 3rd in about a minute and a half. But overall, I feel like the refs did a pretty good job tonight. You look at it, and they called 7 fouls on Kentucky in the first half, 5 on South Carolina. They called 2 additional fouls on South Carolina leading up to the 4-minute mark timeout. And then I don't know what the final was. I can look at it really quick. But let's see. Ended up calling a couple more personal fouls. So 14. So they called 9 fouls on the Gamecocks if that's right. 9 fouls on the Gamecocks in the second half. That's pretty standard basketball game. Craig says, Matt, you can go over who we have coming in next season and their abilities. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Craig, I want to touch on this Kentucky game and make sure that everyone gets all the information they want. Eddie and Larry Davis, woot woot. Absolutely hurt me. Oh, I like that, Jacob. Yeah, Todd would have had a stroke calling this game tonight. He would have absolutely been going bonkers. Yeah, Jacob, that's funny imagining Todd do it. Paris Owens, Big Blue. That last Michi shot was incredible and summarized how awesome that game was. Yeah, we all know that Michi has no limits on the range from the 3-point line. Kentucky had no D. Kentucky, there was something to be said about no D, but the Gamecocks ran some really, really impressive sets. They didn't do anything fancy. Maybe some out of bounds plays were kind of tricky, and the Gamecocks scored on a lot of those. And Bo Ryan was famous for that. Bo Ryan was famous for stealing possessions with out of bounds plays and stealing points with out of bounds plays. So Lamont Paris definitely learned that well, and I'm glad that the players are able to run it. Gamecocks have struggled against better defensive teams. Yep. Bad calls on Clark. Yeah, Grover. I mean, like I said, those 2 fouls, they could be ticky-tacky. I'm not going to disagree with you there. Pretty ticky-tacky if you ask me. But, they called some fouls that are ticky-tacky on South Carolina as well. Yeah, 0 turnovers for Talon Cooper. Yeah, Jay Diz, we touched on that a little while ago, and that was something that, like I said, if you're just hopping in, I think Talon probably had the best game I've seen of a Gamecock in recent memory. Devin Downey had some ridiculous games a couple years ago. Golly, 10 plus years ago now. I'm showing my age. But yeah, I mean, I think that, talking about this team, because I will talk about the kids that we have coming in next year. I do want to get to that for you, Craig. But, just looking at this team right now, just Colin Murray Boyles. Oh my gosh. He's going to be so good for the Gamecocks. He's going to be so good. He's an athletic freak. He disrupted so many passes that Kentucky had, so many shot attempts. If he gets the ball in the paint, he's trying to dunk on you. And he did it to their big Croatian, the 7'2" guy. I mean, that was a classic on his head, too little type dunk. I thought that was going to bring the house down. Colin and me and Phil were talking about this before. Colin is actually making some really good passes. He sees the court well, and that's really helping the Gamecocks on backdoor cuts. Obviously we know that Colin has 1 or 2 passes a game where he sees it, but he might be a second late. But yeah, Colin Murray Boyles is going to be so good. I think that Morris Ugasuk's going to be pretty good. Jacoby has another year left. Zachary Davis is looking really, really strong. Michi still has another year left. I don't think that Michi's going to be ready for the NBA, but he might decide he wants to go play overseas. Talon, I wish we had 4 more years with Talon Cooper. Yeah, we'll be missing Talon, so enjoy Talon Cooper while we have him. What Jacob said here is exactly right. Talon's ability to pace the game and play that many minutes and have no turnovers is amazing. He's such a calming presence, for the Gamecocks. And he's going to break the press every single time. He has different ways he can wiggle out of defenders and still make an amazing pass. The Gamecocks are crushing teams with, screens, pick and pop plays, but also cross-court passes. That a cross-court pass is a difficult thing to do in college basketball, but the way the Gamecocks run their offense, these passing lanes are available, and the Gamecocks are going to keep shooting and keep getting backdoor cuts off of that. So, yeah, really, really, really cool there. Craig, you asked really quick about the guys that the Gamecocks have coming in. Right now the Gamecocks only have 2 commitments, and I think they're pretty much done with this 2024 signing class. Trent Noah is a kid out of Kentucky, 6'6", 200. He's a nationally ranked guy, ranked in the top. He's 130th. I'm looking at right now on 24/7. But he's supposed to be a scorer. I would probably consider him very similar to the Reed Shepherd kid that Kentucky has right now. I think he'll be able to come in and play meaningful minutes from the get-go. And then Oku Federico, he he's going to take some time probably, but he's a 6'9", 200-pound power forward, tall and lanky, but he has a lot of God-given athleticism. But the Gamecocks are, 54th overall recruiting ranking. A lot of that has to do with only 2 players. The big guy that everyone wants to talk about is Eli Ellis. Eli Ellis is going to be coming in with that 2025 class. He's ranked 63rd in the country. He's just putting up bonkers numbers. I think he averaged like 44 points per game or something in a recent, they call it like OTE or something like that, but it's basically like high school AAU basketball, like during the season. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds. He's not going to wow you with his athleticism, but he is going to wow you with his basketball IQ and scoring ability. And then Hayden Osman, power forward, 6'8", 220, kind of in that Colin Murray Boyles phylum of a player. And he's ranked nationally too as the 202nd best recruit in the country. So Gamecocks are going to continue to try and pile up some talent here. And it's a little bit different than when Frank was here, because Frank did get the Chris Silvas, the PJ Doziers, Sindarius Thornwells, but the majority of the other kids he pulled in usually were not ranked at this high of caliber of player. And Lamont is gonna be just fine. There'll be some transfers that come in just like every year. I don't know if you're going to see a lot of transfers out of the program, because I just think that Lamont has this thing kind of rolling internally at the moment. And with the COVID years and stuff, I'll have to go back and look and see who exactly has more college eligibility. Some of those guys may decide that they're done with college basketball and want to move on to professional career outside of basketball. But I saw, can Eli Ellis consider reclassifying to 2024? I don't know if he can or not. Just depends on what he can get through admissions. He's going to have to get the high school credits. I mean, basically he's being a homeschooled high school basketball player. He's not playing on a team that has regular high school classes. So I mean, he could potentially do some accelerated stuff if he wants to, or he might just say, no, I need to continue to refine my skill and development, and I want to stay in the 2025 class. I haven't heard of any pressure from Carolina to push Eli up to 2024. Chad, that Eli Ellis, that's the kid that's all over social media. He's a really, really fun player to watch. If you haven't gone and seen Eli Ellis on social media, he's like an Instagram, TikTok kind of star. I mean, he has like hundreds of thousands of followers, but you can also find his stuff on YouTube and watch him. He's really like that Sean Padula kid that, if you remember the Virginia Tech game this year, kind of like that 6'2" point guard that Virginia Tech had that was just really crafty and could score from all over the place. I consider Eli Ellis very similar to that guy, but Eli might even have more potential. He's just so young and so crafty and gifted with the basketball. He's going to be a guy, though, if you watch him, like if he was on another team, you would hate him. I mean, you would absolutely hate Eli Ellis, but the fact that he's a Gamecock means you're going to love him more for it, because he likes to talk and when he backs it up. Jacob pops in. Josh Gray only played 11 minutes and had 9 points and 6 rebounds. Josh Gray maximized every second he was on the court tonight. Just can't say enough about the role players tonight. To hold Shepard to 1 basket, I was worried he may go off, but our defense didn't let him get the ball. Yeah, and I want to see how many minutes Shepard played. He's actually been taking kind of a back seat lately. He only played 14 minutes tonight and only took 2 shots. But let me pull that up for you here, Craig, because I'm interested myself. So Shepard had 12 against Georgia in their 105-96 win. He had 9 against Mississippi State in their 90-77 win. 13 against A&M. 3 against Missouri. So he's kind of faded a little bit. He started out really strong. He had 1, 2, 3. He had 4 20-point games in the non-con schedule. But he's going to be a good player. But, glad he didn't get going tonight, because that one thing that Kentucky did not do well was shoot 3-pointers. And that's a big reason the Gamecocks were able to get the dub. Just again, I want to reiterate, looking at South Carolina's next couple games, Gamecocks right now are 16-3, 4-2 in the conference. I think there's a real possibility for South Carolina to get to 17-3 Missouri. Let's call it 17-4 Tennessee. You can get to 18-19. You can get 20 wins before Valentine's Day. and you're probably looking at like a 20-4 record if Gamecocks play the way they're capable of playing over their next couple. And then you have the Auburn game, but then you have a little bit of a break. You got Ole Miss. Ole Miss is, they started out, undefeated, but they come back to earth, and the computer metrics never loved Ole Miss. At Texas A&M, Florida, Tennessee at home. I think that you can have a raucous environment. If you can get to say like 21, 22, and let's call it like 5 or 6, you'll have Tennessee at home, the last home game of the season. That'll be a humongous game with potential SEC title, regular season title implications on the line. And then you finish off at Mississippi State, who the Gamecocks beat to open SEC play this year. So we're in the nitty-gritty of it now. This is my favorite time of the season. I love when conference basketball starts. I love when you can kind of see these puzzle pieces being put together. And that's where we're at with the Gamecocks now. So with that being said, y'all, I'm going to call it a night. Normally I might have a bourbon or something to celebrate a win, but I got a 7:30 a.m. appointment that I got to leave the house for around 7 a.m. tomorrow. So I won't be celebrating, but I do hope that if you guys want to partake or have been partaking, y'all enjoy the win. Keep celebrating it. Tell all your buddies about the game tomorrow when you go to work, all your group chats and stuff like that. Make sure that you celebrate these Gamecocks. And I can't say enough, how much these guys deserve our support. And, getting out there on Saturday against Missouri, the Gamecocks they don't really need a letdown game. So if the fans can get out there, it's really going to help them. It's Saturday at 1:00. It's the perfect time to take the family, scoop up those tickets while you can. I actually don't have my ticket yet. As soon as I get off of here tonight, I'm going to go ahead and buy mine because don't want to miss out. Don't want to miss out because those ticket prices will probably go up. But oh my gosh. So WJM4 says the boys are in the fountain at Colonial Life Arena. Love it, man. Celebrate it all. I mean, if I was in college right now, I know 5 points would be going ballistic. I still remember when Devin beat Kentucky at Kentucky. I guess that would have been like 2009. They talked about on the show tonight or on the game time. It was Billy Gillespie's last game at Kentucky or last season at Kentucky. I was living in Olympia Mills at the time. And when the Gamecocks won that every basket, you'd hear the entire apartment complex cheering. So I know that's what it was like on campus, in the dorms, on different apartments, the different housing communities around Columbia. This one's going to be celebrated long and hard, and it definitely should be. Way to go, Craig! I love it for you, man. I hope it's Chicken Cock. Chicken Cock is a great sponsor of all of the shows on the Chief Sports Network. Before I get out of here, I do want to say, okay, Big Chicken says LP style and relationship building skills he has will make the Gamecocks a focus in 2 years for sure. Absolutely. Happy says deuces. So with that, guys, I will say deuces to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I always say this, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You guys give me the most valuable thing you have, which is your time when you come and join me for these types of shows. And I love the interaction. So I can't thank you guys enough. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. And I'll be on the show tomorrow inside the Gamecocks. So make sure you hop on there. JV, JC, and Phil, as always. And who knows, we might have some surprise guests. But we'll be on the show tomorrow. It's going to be a great show. So make sure you got it on your Google Calendar. Make sure you're watching it. But with that said, guys, have a good one. Talk to you soon.